I'm Linda and happy St. Patrick's Day. In this video I hope to talk about Ireland's history surrounding mental illness and disability, because it has quite an interesting history regarding the treatment of those with mental disabilities and mental illnesses, and I want to really look at that in this video because St. Patrick's Day is a nice day for revelling and partying and drinking. Something that's really important to note is that Ireland has an uncommonly high rate of mental illnesses, and its history of mental illness and its treatment of those with mental illnesses and disabilities is quite terrible. So I hope that's what I'll cover in this video, so let's get to it. Prior to asylums being in place in Ireland, people with mental illnesses and mental disability really had nowhere to go. They had no idea what was causing these disabilities and mental illnesses, so very often they would turn to folklore and myth and superstition to try and find an answer. In pre-Christian Ireland, it was believed that a druid could put madness upon someone by throwing a madman's wisp at them. A madman's wisp will be a ball of grass or dried hay, and just by throwing it at someone's face it could cause and induce madness. A case of this in Irish mythology was Kamgan, son of McLeod, king of the Decies in Munster. Apparently he scorned a woman and she called upon a druid to throw a madman's wisp at his face, and this caused Kamgan to turn mad. However, despite his madness, he was still able to write poetry and write philosophy. Speaking from first-hand experience, I find being mad actually helps with the poetry writing and the philosophizing. In Caharana at Denani Point in County Louth, there is a rock shaped like a chair known as Madman's Chair, and it was believed that if a mad person sat upon this rock 3 times, they would be cured of their madness. If a person who was insane was in a fit of lucidity, if they sat upon the rock, they would remain lucid for the rest of their lives. However, the caveat was that if a person who was without madness sat upon the rock, they would have the madness induced upon them. In County Kerry there is the Glen, or the Glen of the Lunatics, and it was believed that every mentally ill person or insane person would end up there, and to cure yourself of your madness you would have to drink from the water of the well and eat the watercress. With the introduction of Christianity to Ireland, so came the belief that madness or mental disability was caused by possession or as a punishment from God. A legend has it that Saint Machutu MacFinál of Lismore cured a person of their mental illness just by asking God to forgive them. If only it was that easy. First-hand experience, I would say if it was that easy, sign me up. Laws from the 7th to 9th centuries were put in place to make sure that people with mental disabilities and mental illnesses were protected. They even had their own specific classes in society. So those with mental illnesses were called the mayor, those with violent mental illnesses were called Dásach, and those with an intellectual disability were called the Druth. Exploiting those with mental illnesses or disabilities was explicitly forbidden, and the families of those with those disabilities or illnesses were required and obliged to take care of their family members. Sadly, that didn't remain the case. In 1817, it was reported that those with a family member with mental illness or mental disability would simply dig a pit and put the person in the pit and cover it with a grate or a grill, and then the person with the mental illness and disability would just be left there. Through the grill or grate, the person would be fed, and if they were lucky, the pit would be inside the house, or else it would be outside. In extreme cases, the person with the mental illness or disability would be killed according to religious or superstitious beliefs, allegedly. In Irish folklore, it was believed that a healthy baby would be replaced by the fairies with a sickly and ill changeling child, and the only way to get the healthy baby back would be to purge the changeling child from the family home. One such case as this being used for an apparent justification for murder is the case of Patrick Patsy Doyle. In 1888, police had been called to the Doyle family house in Beaufort, County Kerry due to a reported violent infighting within the family. Upon arriving to the Doyle family household, which included 5 adults, police found the body of 13-year-old Patsy lying outside. Patsy was described as being an idiot and an imbecile, and suffered from epilepsy and was deaf, and also likely had other developmental issues. According to his mother Johanna, in a police statement, "On Saturday night at cock crow, I took that fairy Patsy. He was not my son, he was a devil, a bad fairy. I could have no luck when he was in the house. I carried him out of the house and threw him into the yard and got a hatchet and struck him 3 blows on the head. Michael helped me carry him out. I then came back and we all prayed and went to heaven." Patsy's body was then left outside. Upon discovery, his body showed signs of being eaten by animals, with one report saying that at the time his face was in the process of being eaten by a sow. Johanna Doyle then spent an undisclosed amount of time in prison and then in an insane asylum. Another case involves the 1826 murder of Michael Leahy, who was drowned in the River Flesk. Only 4 years old, his community believed him to be a changeling due to developmental issues. He was described as not being able to stand or talk. Anne Roach, an elder in the community, told them that if they bathed him every morning in the River Flesk, it would drive the fairy out of him. Upon the 3rd day of them doing this, the 2 men who had dipped him in the Flesk held him underwater too long and he drowned. Anne Roach went to court but was found not guilty, and no one was charged over his murder. He was drowned for being a child with disabilities. And he was only 4 years old. He was only a baby. At this point you're probably thinking to yourself, surely it can't get any worse for people with mental illnesses or disabilities in Ireland. And you would be wrong. In the 1800s, it became common to put people with mental illnesses or disabilities into asylums. These asylums often became overcrowded and were underfunded and understaffed. Patients were often locked into very small rooms and chained to beds. One asylum here in Limerick City is noted to have had patients chained with their hands under their knees, and they were not allowed to stand up. So when the inspectors came, they found that these people were no longer able to stand up and could no longer be able to. Around 12% of patients would die annually in these asylums due to infection and subpar living conditions. Its peak in 1914 is estimated that nearly 25,000 people were housed in these asylums. So what were the historic laws surrounding mental illness and disability? In the 19th century, multiple lunacy acts were put in place. These acts meant that if a person was deemed by the court not capable or had a mental illness or had a mental disability, then all their assets and lands and all their rights would be signed away to the court, and then they would be placed in an asylum institution. If a person was deemed to fall under the Lunacy Act, then they would have no rights, they would have no autonomy, and everything would be seized and given to the courts. The Lunacy Act wasn't finally repealed in Ireland until 2015. 2015. Shows you the effectivity of the Irish government, doesn't it? It took them 200 years to repeal that law. So what are the statistics around Ireland and mental illness? Well, 2016 it was reported that 18.5% of Irish people reported a mental illness of some kind, making Ireland one of the highest in Europe. According to Mental Health Ireland, 1 in 4 people in Ireland will have a mental illness of some sort in their lifetime. It's believed that 1 in 5 young people in Ireland between the ages of 19 and 24 have some form of mental illness. In all of Ireland, the city with the highest number of suicides is Limerick City, with consistently the highest number of people committing suicide. In Limerick, men are 3 times more likely than women to commit suicide, which is a topic for someone a lot smarter than I am. As for mental disability, I believe that more could be done to assist people with mental disabilities in Ireland. The Irish healthcare system is so crowded and underfunded, and in some places probably mismanaged, that people fall through the cracks. But I suppose one reconciliation we can have to nowadays is that now people are far less likely to be mistreated in mental health and mental disability institutions, and they have no fear of having their rights taken away from them, and they have no fear of having their life taken simply for being disabled or mentally ill. Because it's one of those things to consider that if I was alive at that time, what would have been my status? Would I have been put into an asylum? Would I have been institutionalized? I know for a fact I probably would have been, due to my own mental illnesses, and my status has been Asperger's. So it's kind of interesting to think about this St. Patrick's Day, that Ireland has a lot to be proud of and its people have a lot to be proud of, but there is a little bit of darkness there that I think every country has. But Ireland's darkness is in how it treats those who cannot help themselves. So hopefully this video hasn't been too much of a bummer this St. Patrick's Day, and I hope you all enjoy yourself and have fun responsibly. Wear a mask, don't go to crowded gatherings because Miss Rona's still here, and it's nice to see you. Slán.